All right, let's call this Finance Committee meeting,
Okay.
March 23rd to order, and
Underneath it was a Sean, sorry, cut short sheeted.
All right, anything, Mark? All right.
starting with the sales tax report.
So again, like our previous meetings, we got another full agenda. I tried to keep it light, but folks just want to continue to add to it at the late hour. So I'm hoping, again, we can kind of go through our routine stuff fairly quickly, the financial report, sales tax report, judgment report, and then we can kind of get into the meatier topics, which are, you know, topics 3 through 9. Again, so I can still get you guys out on time.
Sales tax looks good.
February is actually December, correct?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
60 days,
Then
yeah.
you do the leg, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Have we received any information? There's an effort going on, I'm not even sure what it's called, the sales tax reallocation effort that's going on. Are you familiar with that?
I heard something about that this week from WFOA, but I haven't heard much on it. Other than there's
Senator Rolfus asked the state for a view into their crystal ball as far as the allocation. Now, it's a bit early. Let me see if I can find it. But there's going to be some additional sales tax coming our way.
okay.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah, you can
Keep
send me
going
anything and I
now.
can look into it. See what information to bring back. So as John said, the sales tax looks good compared to 2017. Actuals collected year over year are higher, so a good positive sign for sales tax.
February
revenue.
rate was almost double. 45 versus 5-year average of 25.
Yeah, RE as well was really strong.
I don't think we'll get March 2017's number repeated though. 250, I can't remember, that was an apartment complex that sold.
All right. Moving on to the balances. Again, healthy balances throughout the funds. And I think these will mean a little bit more as we talk about the budget, which we have on the agenda. Again, when we reflect on the budget, we're going to focus on our high level, our major operational funds. And we're not going to focus so much on our special revenue funds or impact fees. We'll probably talk those at a future meeting when we talk about capital projects and planning and budget amendments. But you can see that all funds are healthy and no real concerns to report. Any questions on any of the funds? I'll give you a chance to look those over.
Go ahead.
The transportation, that's just impact fees. That's not our license tax. That's not the TBD.
No, that's in the impact fee fund, yeah.
Just the impact fee fund, okay.
Yeah. Okay, if you're comfortable with that, we'll move on to talk about the Tremont project, and we got Mark here to kind of give you any project updates. We're rolling out the big spreadsheet again. Again, Mark, do you want to provide any commentary on the
You go
project
ahead.
status?
Do yours first. And
There is much, I mean, we've got our first significant change order. We continue to try to make lemonade. We are making lemonade out of lemons on our design isn't all that. And I continue to get comments actually how, what a good job Mike Pleasance and Mark is doing out there for the utilities. The Silverdale project isn't, I guess, as fun for some of those folks. They're really having challenges there. But, you know, the one major thing to bring forward today is that we've got about $100,000 change order related to the sewer force main isn't as deep as thought. And when they did the cut, we're down to 8 inches of cover, and it has to have 3 feet of cover. So they're going to lay in 300 feet of that sewer line. It needs to get lowered. It will be night work because they have to do it when the flows are low and while everybody's sleeping, because it's the sports main coming from McCormick Woods, and it doesn't turn off.
Yeah, the diurnal flow pattern. So the good news in the big picture, though, is we're still on time, if not ahead of schedule. And even with this change order, we're on budget, if not $250,000 ahead. So nobody's hitting the panic button yet. We're not into our contingency yet, and the contractor doesn't anticipate it.
That's great.
So, I mean, we had savings in not dropping the road from Pottery to Port Orchard Boulevard. That was a 3-foot cut just to accommodate the driveway at Bethany Lutheran. We didn't need to do that. That meant we didn't have to do some gas relocation, relaying of pipe. We had some additional costs on the storm vaults, but in the big picture, we're still fine. There's some quantity issues that we're going to have a meeting to work out, whether or not the paving numbers are accurate. To me, that's the only thing that might bump us into contingency, is if the quantities are off on the HMA. We won't know that here for a while, but in general, we're doing just fine.
So if we're on time and on budget, why have we spent 1.8 million less?
It's just this was set up theoretical,
Okay.
but we're tracking on a normal. I mean, you've got a month to 2-month delay, really, and by the time.
Is there any value?
Well, we've also asked Berger Abraham to update
I was gonna say,
their expenditure projections.
we do a
Yeah,
based on-
reforecast of this
yeah,
for the
they're-
next 12 months?
They're working on that.
Yeah, because that will be really useful to finance. So if there is $1 million worth of savings, one of the things that finance and public works are working together. Okay, if we aren't dipping into contingency, those are bond funds, because we want to use all our grant funds up first. What can we use the bond funds for? And when do we have to have those spent? Because we have requirements with the bond funds. So we're trying to manage that with all our other funding sources to make sure that we're exhausting the grants first, and then our local funds, and then getting to the bond proceeds at the latest, but using it strategically with other capital needs perhaps.
Copy information.
Oh, you got?
This is on the estimate of local sales tax revenue from remote sales, which was a bill that was passed last
Right.
year.
Right.
And SST mitigation payments by jurisdiction. Port Orchard. 38,404 for this year. And I'll forward this to you.
Yeah, for this, and that's funny that you mentioned that, because Doquay did mention that, and they were going to try to schedule some webinars to talk about the impact of the internet sales.
117,789 for next year, and 150,395 for the following.
So
budget for
who's
next
losing
year.
that sales tax?
I believe it's coming in from,
Internet sales.
Yeah, internet
Remote
sales.
sales.
So they weren't being captured previously at all because they were being sold on the internet? Because Amazon's really good about getting it local dollars to local.
yeah.
Right, I think the big companies are. It's all the little that haven't
Yeah.
been doing that.
Okay, well, that's good
So,
news.
yeah, it's a little additional.
I mean, we don't need to get into this too deep, but also we're having a little challenge with some undergrounding on 3 properties. The houses are supposed to be able to do masthead to masthead conversions. Commercial properties can't. We've got 3 houses that now are businesses, and L&I's giving us grief that those are now commercial. Come on, they're still houses, so we're pushing back on that. Their solution is they want utility poles out on the right of way, and we're going, no way. We spent $1 million to not have utility poles. We're not going to go there. So we could have a modest change order there, $15,000 to $20,000 because we might have to do some upgrades to those electrical panels on those three structures if it comes to that. So we're not there yet, so. Mark and I have been adamant with the project. There's no way we're gonna take all these utility poles back out and put utility poles back in. That's,
And Mike's doing a good job.
Mike's doing a good job. The contractor, Mark Andrews, he's about ready to retire. We're lucky to have him. He should be a civil engineer. He's not. He and Blake, a young engineer, are literally redesigning the plans.
Is he
On the
Berger
fly.
Eben or is he?
ACI is Mark
AC.
Andrews, but Blake is Berger. So he's really having to redesign these every day, just because the plan set, original plan set, as the mayor alluded to earlier, isn't the best. So they're staying ahead of it a month or so. We had that moment, a time of unconstructability, and now they're literally like a month ahead redesigning, and so it's going well because of that partnership that we have with Blake, Andrew, and then Mike and myself. So, you know,
Excellent.
it's a big project, you know.
and things are in the ground, and you start digging
right.
holes and cutting, and all of a sudden, where'd this come from?
Right.
Well, this ditch, this sewer line needs to go right through here. These electrical lines need to go through here. What are we gonna do?
But the sewer line isn't ready to be moved yet, and it has to stay in service. So yeah, there's a lot of constructability issues that we're working through. So
But somebody from PUD just pulled me aside when I was in Olympia yesterday, and I just commended, Mike and Mark, and just said, hey, and they don't know, they said, your project is going so good, we can't, we're getting plenty of lead time, they were praising our staff, and so I shared that yesterday.
So all good news on the Tremont front. Just continuing challenges, but all good.
yeah, and we're still working through the corrective action plan.
Oh yeah. So that was the other piece on here. So I have here B, contract repayment update. So if you recall, it must have been maybe 2 months ago, we came here and said, hey, we have some concerns. SAO and WASA are doing some auditing of
Project management.
Yeah,
project management
we
in the past.
internally audited it and found these through
Yes.
Mark's process. And
Yes.
so we've done a memo saying, hey, we found these lapses in the contracts during
And procurement.
in
2005.
It was
through
Maher
2007.
and during the
Able.
Able administration, and it was actually probably between the transition between between Able and Coppola, and the contracts can't lapse, or we have to start over, and they did lapse. And so we found it, pointed it out. We get hopefully a one-time mulligan on this, and we're gonna have to bring it forward to council for a resolution that, hey, world, we found these mistakes, we fixed them, and this is our process going forward, so we won't allow this to happen anymore. So we will get most likely an audit finding from this, but we self-audited, and DOT's telling us that we most likely won't have to pay any money back. That's the important piece.
They're not going to guarantee anything, but they're basically saying, look, through the project management review process, and other jurisdictions have done that, ultimately the auditor is going to find it, but when it goes down to WashDOT and FHWA, they're going to go and say, well, 2 years ago they found this and they've corrected it. And
Right.
so we're doing all that we can do at this point to not have an issue. And so we have for both Bay Street and Tremont, we both have a procurement and a contract lapse issue that we're going to be correcting.
Yeah, and this is really important, and I appreciate Mark doing this because the magnitude was up to about $750,000 that we'd have to repay. So it was a significant issue that we're working through, and it sounds like we have a path forward to not have to repay those funds, which is a huge break for this project.
We had a
for the city.
conference call yesterday between Stacy at Local Programs and Brandy and Sharon, so that we are all on the same page. And so, we're trying to correct it. I still have a bit of a frustration that we're non-CA, we're non-certified administration. DOT actually is our administrator, and
They
they're,
didn't keep us out of trouble.
right, and it's their job. None of this should have happened, but things have changed in 10 years. Things have changed dramatically down in Olympia. They've had change in staff both at WashDOT and FHWA that's led to this. So hopefully they're not going to whack anybody for.
Does DOT charges for administration?
They do. WashDOT charges, local programs doesn't, but then they still put a value in for ancillary, the departments that do charge. But you either, so Paulsbo's CA, Kitsap Transit CA, I don't know if Burlington is. You have to hit a certain level to do that. If not, every advertisement should be, like, in the last 2 years since Stacy's been there, an advertisement doesn't go out unless Stacy reviews it. The contract's not approved unless Stacy's reviewed it. There were just things that were happening that weren't being looked at or reviewed, and it's unfortunate.
And it was our first, foray into this. Unfortunately, we didn't have Mark. We had, Maher, and
Well, he also had 5. In 2005, the city took on 5 federal projects with no.
And we'd never
funding
done one
source.
before.
Had never done one. No funding, revenue source. Nobody that even though Maher is at WashDOT, he obviously didn't work in that part of WashDOT. And the rules they were always the same, but they were being administered differently. So, that's a big part of it, because I've seen it with my own eyes. This whole new FHWA person coming in and how everything has changed. It's just, and it's like, hey, these have been the rules all along. They were just never enforced.
So, important thing is we understand the rules now.
Yeah.
We're following the rules, and we found, the sins of our past, and we're pointing them out in this memo. We're going to bring it to council, and that's all we can do. We can't fix what happened 10 years ago.
Well, 10 to 15.
Yeah.
So you won't have that come up again on any future meetings. So I just want to close the loop.
But
on
it
that.
will come to a council meeting because they have to pass
The corrective action.
the
plan.
corrective action
We're going to
plan.
do it as a resolution,
Yeah.
I believe.
Okay.
So that's coming in the next probably 60 days.
Okay. Moving on. John had asked that we follow up on the DRS council wages. So I just wanted to revisit that and kind of get direction from you guys on how you want to handle it. Again, the current council monthly wages are at $1,000. In order to receive service credit for a PERS system, we have to be at $1,035 due to the increase in minimum wage. I mean, that's kind of the high-level clip. There's a little formula to have that done. Currently, it doesn't impact any council members.
Jay, it does. It doesn't.
The only-
does impact Jay. His desire to contribute. Yeah.
Yes. So I had Rebecca pull.
Because he's the one
bullet
that raised the question.
He raised the question, and here's what we found was important about it: is that all council members reporting as of 1/1/18 and are employed by a PERS employer are not affected. Okay. Now, all council members reporting 1/1/18 and are not employed by a PERS employer, and because of our lower threshold, are not eligible for service credits because ours is such a low level. So when I say it doesn't impact council members, it's because those that are employed by a PERS arm currently, they're continuing to receive their service credit, and the calculations go in part of their compensation for retirement. Those who are not in a PERS system like Jay is probably in the TERS system for.
It's in the TERS, and he has
And so-
PERS credits from a prior life or prior employer.
Oh, he does have some PERS credit from a prior.
Right, and so.
Okay, so then this could impact him if he does have some PERS credit historically.
Right.
So
but
as
he's
for-
not currently contributing to it, so he's not eligible to contribute.
So let me just ask a quick question. You indicated that any future council members are not eligible because we don't.
Correct. Yeah.
They wouldn't earn service credits. Why wouldn't they?
Because the amount we're paying doesn't meet the minimum
Well,
wage
I
threshold.
appreciate that the minimum wage, but if we changed that,
Yes.
Then
Then
we
they would.
then we
Then
would
they
be
would.
fine.
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
That's
Yeah.
the bar. The bar got raised.
Well, I
again on us.
understand it's the
And
issue of service credit versus making enough money. I see it
Yeah.
as two different things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Because
work a sufficient amount of time to get credit for it. Obviously, they have to
So I think it
calculate.
was Deb that might have made the recommendation that we just tie council wages to the minimum wage calculation moving forward.
You can't.
You can't?
You can't. Yeah, you guys, and you can't give yourselves
I understand
raises.
that.
And so you have to take action and then it goes into effect after the next election.
I believe you can adopt an ordinance that has a fixed amount of an increase and increments throughout
But
your
you
term,
can't
but
make-
that has to be approved, and then
Yeah.
you have to be elected into that system.
So you can't tie, and I know we can't change it now, but I'm saying if we were to take action now for the next election cycle, that language, could it tie that language to minimum wage moving
There was
forward?
something like that
So because it's
historically,
very-
and they had to take it out.
Okay.
We tried to a while back tie it to the cost of living, COLA, like we have all the contracts.
Right.
And they came back and said, no, because that, you don't know what that number is. If you were to set a fixed number, like the council will get 2% increase this year, 2% the following year, 2% the following, that's a fixed amount, and as long as that's approved and known,
I'm sure how other
so that they're
jurisdictions
elected
deal with
into
it. I mean, everyone's got to be dealing with this.
Well, you can also, and it's been a while since I've read the legislation, but you can also pull together like a citizens committee. That's the only way that you can implement their recommendations and implement it right away without having to be elected into that.
My question is, I know that you took advantage of it when you were on council. What does council have to do, a council member, to be eligible, besides get more money from us?
You contribute a small portion, the city contributes the other portion of the PERS credit. It took my 10 years on the council, I was eligible about 7 of those 10 years. It got me almost a year and a half's worth of service credit.
You have to write a letter to PERS and request to be included into that, and then they will come back and
Yeah. So
bless you, and then once you're in, you're in.
And what's the vesting schedule? How many?
You need 5
5
years of service credit. So as a council member, you're probably never gonna vest.
That was my
Right.
question,
It's
is what are
so-
we doing? Yeah,
And politically, I would say we are the highest paid city council, matching Bremerton at $1,000. We're paying more than Paulsbo and Bainbridge Island, a little bit. I think Paulsbo's $750, Bainbridge is a little bit more than that, and us and Bremerton are at $1,000. And so I'm not advocating one way or the other. We're just
Right.
pointing out the facts that Jay attempted to sign up because it was a benefit we had. And when Deb went to sign him up, she discovered that that as of the end of the year, minimum wage jumped up again, and we're $35 underneath that threshold, which is constantly moving. So next year it'll be another 30 or 40 bucks, you know. And we preemptively tried to, when we fixed it last time, we took it up we rounded up,
Significant
and
amount.
we
Yeah.
took it up $100.
So the reason I wanted to bring this back as requested is A, to get policy direction, because this really seems like a policy meeting. It's not a financial
Right.
matter. $35, that's
Right.
not a big deal. It's really do you want to have those future council members that have participated in PERS system eligible to continue to receive some credit for their service as a council member? That's really a policy decision. So if you guys say, yes, we from a board like that, we'll craft some language to bring back an ordinance to adopt to adjust to the correct amount, and we can talk about what kind of procedures we can put in place to revisit this on an annual basis to ensure that we're moving with the minimum wage target to continue your policy direction.
Well, I don't know if people on an annual basis would do any good, since we are all elected every 2 years. So
yeah, biannual would
Yeah,
be.
biannual
Sure,
would be
sure.
something that you would probably look at, but I would advocate, if we're gonna do anything, and I'm not really advocating change, but if we were to do anything, I would suggest that we move it up enough to where we don't have to revisit this. I think we know what the minimum wage is gonna be for the next few years. Let's calculate what that number is.
Well, I think if you're gonna do this, you do it as part of the buying, because it won't matter. It doesn't matter until for a year and a half.
Right.
It's part of the
Yeah.
biennial budget discussion, and it probably needs to be a placeholder in that process just ahead of the election. Okay, because that's when it's gonna take effect, is
Right.
when people are sworn in right after that election, is when you're gonna, that salaries.
The other thing I would say is, I would suspect that most people run for city council and serve on city council not because of that particular benefit.
Yeah.
A lot of folks don't, they're not even aware of it.
Yeah.
And as Rob says, the amount of hours that that are attributed to our position, it takes a long time to get enough service credit you have to have 5 years worth of service credits to be vested. And I think we get at best a half a service credit.
Yeah.
I think it's a quarter a year.
Quarter a
Something like
year.
that. It's, yeah, you'll never get there.
Sucks, but, well, Chuck
Well-
Lawson would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I got there because of my other
I
jobs.
understand.
so-
Yeah.
And that's the, it's what I'm an example of. I'm
Well, and
going
also
to.
the age you are when you're first elected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I was elected, I was already at retirement age, so,
Sean, you might get there.
yeah.
Well, so it takes,
And maybe we're just discussing
Yeah.
something that should just be a non-issue. Maybe
Right.
we just eliminate that benefit and move on.
It might be
This is
better.
just
I think it's already eliminated.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
We don't have to deal with it.
I guess I would caution, I don't have a vote on this, but I would caution you, we're not the biggest city in the county.
Right.
And we have the highest compensation
agree.
in the county.
I
Right.
agree.
And we're doing more than probably most of the cities out there right now with all of the projects and everything we've got going on. And I don't think I don't think you're overcompensated. That's for darn sure. What you're getting, it's less than minimum wage actually.
I think that's it. I don't think you're joining council because of a retirement.
No, you're doing it for service to community.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna get rich on this job.
Yeah.
So just looking for policy direction, what you want me to
As
do?
far as I'm concerned, I think it's a dead issue, so thank you for doing the research.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
circle back with then Jay on that.
Yep. I can do that.
Okay, thank you, Rob. All right. Moving on, what is the next?
Charging stations.
Charging stations, okay. Ready to clock? So, want to bring this back.
Oh, that's right, this is your deal.
Mine is- I
Well,
don't know
not
how to
really.
explain
No,
it.
charger.
This is his Tesla parking as well.
It's not my car, by the way, or my charging thing. So the charging station, again, how this came about, I went down, charged my car up, didn't work, I found out, called the vendor to get fixed. We found out and learned in that process.
It hadn't been working for a year.
So that's kind of why I'm going to cover here, the historical current situation, and then really the policy direction from this group, and then we'll go forward from there. All right, so again, historically, the city installed 2 level chargers in 2011. They sold
2 level 2 chargers, which are the
Yeah.
quick charge.
They're not the fastest, which is a level 3, but they are faster than a level 1. A level 1 is just a wall outlet. Okay, level 2 is 220. So that's a much faster
I think
charge.
it's a 4-hour charge, isn't it?
It depends. Yeah, good. So total project costs were about $21,000. City's participation was about $10,000. Okay. Eco Totality paid $10,000. I think they got some federal granting for
Was
that.
that Obama grant?
Yeah.
And again, at the end of this whole historical story, Eco Totality got bought out by Blink, and the service agreement between us and them expired. Currently, the equipment is owned by the city. That's what we learned in this process. Both stations are out of order. City needs to repair, replace stations, or decommission stations. There are costs to have the stations fixed. Okay, and this is kind of where we tee up the conversation where there are 2 cost alternatives. One would just have upfront minimal costs. The other would have upfront minimal costs, ongoing administrative costs with potential minimal revenue. Again, this opened the opportunity for some policy discussion and direction on EV stations. So to charge or not to charge, and by that I mean money. Under a policy directive, so again, what I want to put out here is there's cost to doing this, whether we replace them, charge or not. To not charge will have some minimal costs, to charge will have some ongoing costs with that minimal costs. So why would you not want to charge? Well, I put up some kind of policy goals and direction so we could follow the state. The state is purchasing power at the state expense and recharging privately and publicly owned vehicles. If you go down to Olympia, you'll see charging stations available for public charge. And if you read their statute, they point to a lot of these goals, promoting cleaner air, kind of the reduction of CO2 emissions. There's a policy directive to encourage the EV market. So we could follow the state of Washington. I'd also say that the city employees and general public have a benefit This is also a good opportunity to promote tourism downtown where the stations are located. You can promote it when someone charges. Ideally, you'd hope that they charge and get out and go to the restaurant for a couple hours, buy some food, shop around. So you can use it as a tourism promotion opportunity. I think also another good policy goal would be, we promote cleaner air, Puget Sound, kind of taking that greener approach. If you go with a note, and the other comment I want to make, we ran this by council and said, hey, the only concern I really have about not charging is this a gift of public funds? And she said, no. If you can make these cases, Noah, and the policy board supports this, and this is kind of their direction, we can make the case that there's not a gift of public funds because there are these benefits. I said, great, that addresses my concern.
And the original station did not,
They have not charged.
when it was operating, it was still.
Right now, though, and we're gonna need to lower the limits to 4 hours. We have commuters plugging in to a dead machine and gaming and disappearing for the day and coming back at the end of the day.
And that's
They're not paying
changing.
it, and they're
That's
not
changing
paying.
Tuesday.
Yeah, we're gonna change those to 4 hours so they can't do that.
Yeah. So if
We just had them in the,
2 spots.
2 spots.
in the back. I mean,
There's
Yes.
4 stalls.
Behind-
oh, there
by
are
the
4. I
library.
thought there
No,
were
there's
2.
Well, there's 2.
There's
there.
only 2
There's
behind the
there's
events.
2, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Place.
yep. 2 stalls.
So if the decision is yes, we like the no charge options for these reasons, we support this. The action required, we adopt a policy and resolution. We got one drafted that you can kind of opine on, read over, see if you like that. The city would need to replace the current use at the one-time minimal cost, and then there's no further administration or collection costs. City would monitor and take these parking stalls consistent with other parking regulations in the city. We want to keep it simple, concise with other parking issues. Now, again, if you guys say no, we want to charge money for this. So we're going to charge users a rate or fee for charging their vehicles. That would be the policy direction. What we would do, we would enter into a contract with Blink or some other company like Blink. There's only a couple out there. So we've been talking with Blink because they are the ones we currently have equipment with. City would need to replace the current units at the one-time minimal cost. So that would be the same. We would then enter into the agreement and pay ongoing service and maintenance fees. We would also begin to account and track for the revenue. And I do say minimal revenue because it really is. I mean, it's 40 cents per kilowatt hour, and when we did the math, to break even without factoring my staffing time to do the accounting and tracking, we would need an average of 5 hours of charging per day of the 260 business day year. So that's a lot of charging going on. The city would monitor and take these parking stalls consistent with their parking requirements.
Okay, I have the third bullet, pay ongoing service and maintenance agreement.
Yeah.
Why would we not have that if we didn't charge?
Because we're gonna go to Home Depot or Lowe's and go buy the machine and have our Public Works Department install it, and it's our machine versus.
No, I
another
realize that,
vendor.
but the machine itself is gonna require maintenance. Or no?
I don't know.
Yeah.
John. Do you
Th-
have to
there-
do anything with yours?
Yeah, we've had some issues with software that
Yeah, you've got to recalibrate. and-
But your software is because you're charging, right? What's kind of software is it?
came from the vendor that we bought the machines. So they have, those are commercial. What we have is commercial charges, not the stuff that you buy at Lowe's.
Well,
Okay.
there would be things, I
But
mean,
even
cord's gonna break, something.
Exactly, my question was, regardless of if we charge or don't charge, this piece of
Yeah.
equipment
Could
needs
break.
to be
It's gonna be
maintained
maintained.
somehow.
You're right.
It does.
And how
Yeah.
are we going to account for that, and what are those costs
Well, what we
potentially?
Well, it
did
really
before-
is if you can enter into a contract with, if you do Blink, if their contract would provide, they would deliver the maintenance to the machine. That's what it used to be with Blink. I don't know what their new
The
contract is.
direction we're recommending is a $3,000 unit that comes from Home Depot. It's not that expensive. And I think the worst case, we might have to buy a part for it once in a while, or we might have to holistically replace that machine. in
Will
the
that
future.
service the needs of the people that are using it?
Well, here's my 2 cents, because when we had Blink before, they didn't charge, you have an account, people swipe their card. There were a number of times when people would go to, it's the reliability factor, because we weren't operating it, and they would have software glitches, we were constantly going down and recalibrating we'd have to send our guys down, and they over the phone they'd say, okay, do this and do this, because it was like a glitch thing. They would get these glitches, and so even when the stations were working, there was a lot of time we were down, and people are going up to try to charge, and it's not working. So
Our plan is just to take that feature out of it. There isn't going to be a card aspect to it or anything. We're just going to provide this, and
Yeah.
you would walk up and plug into it.
The product, a little bit.
Have you looked,
The product we're actually looking at is very simple, straightforward. There's not a whole lot of bells and whistles to it. Simply an unplugged plug. And it would come with, it's standard kind of 1 year limited warranty, those kind of things. So when we talk about the cost, okay, it's going to cost us $3,000 for a year. When you talk about the time how it works, it's actually going to maintain this on a contract type basis with Blink software glitches. You're not going to have the software glitches. You'll have this machine working or it won't, and if it doesn't, we'll have a limited warranty for the product.
have you looked on the bidding list for charging units? State contract for charging units?
I haven't. I mean, I could.
If we're gonna buy
can't.
2, are we gonna be over our?
No,
No.
again, the cost is $3,000. So it's very, I don't even know if they have a state contract for that kind of.
Well, the only reason I suggest that is that, there is a difference between a home model and a commercial model.
Correct, and this is the commercial model.
Is that right? for
Yeah,
Home
yeah,
Depot?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, so the unit we identified at Home Depot, and then we actually contacted the vendor, said, hey, can you give us the commercial quote price? And so we went the commercial route, but we wanted the simpler product that didn't have potential issues. The other ongoing service maintenance fees there, Beck, are for credit card transactions.
And that
we have
sort
to
of
pay the,
stuff.
So here's
additional
so
admin.
they're right now they're here and here on that roadway. There's a power
Right there.
breaker box. The transformer's over here. And so what we wanted to do was do double units and just do one and change it to here and here. And Mike's went and looked at it. To do that, the power, these are individual units, and the wire isn't big enough, the meter base isn't big enough, and the transformer isn't big enough to power all of that. So
and the
all
marquee.
yeah. So the long and the short of it is, all we can with the existing infrastructure and what we're proposing, it's 2 1-unit units, and that's what all the conduit and all the wire will support of only this level 2 infrastructure. So what we wanted to do is put one in that powered 2, and then if we got a whole bunch of use, we'd come back in and put another one in that would power 2, but the infrastructure won't support it. And so maybe we get 3 to 5 years out of these, and there's a whole bunch more electric cars, and maybe there's something happens downtown, and we want to change some of this infrastructure out. But right now, we're recommending, let's use the infrastructure we have and the wiring we have and what it can support.
And I have no problem with that, and I have no problem not charging. I just want to make sure that whatever we put in there services the needs of the people who are plugging in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other
That's
piece of it
all.
is we want to
Yeah.
limit that time to 4. We've got
Right.
commuters using it right now, and that isn't what the intent is. We want to cycle those machines and get cars in and out of there. So we're going to change the time. We're going to paint them green like they're supposed to
It's
be.
a charging station, not a parking slot.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, I mean, for me, the real decision from this group is, okay, policy direction. Do you want to charge or not to charge? Because if you no charge, we're going to go a different path, right? Draft resolution talked about the benefits of it. If you want to charge, then we're going to start talking about contracts with Blink and the cost of the 4 different options and go down that
favor
route.
of not charging, and it creates a lot of mess for nothing. Let's just see how it goes for a while. And
That's what I was
monitor
going to
it.
say, for the expense of getting into it, let's try it for 2 or 3 years. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
And then there's the reliability piece. People are going to be
Right.
much more upset if they're being charged for something versus it being
Right.
free.
Right.
First time I've seen Nick in a suit since he interviewed.
I know.
Not put on enough weight that I fit in it again.
So is that consensus of this group, and you'd like me to come forward with a resolution? Okay, I'll bring one back.
Well, unanimous as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Again, I'm going to try to keep us on time. We're at 8:15, so I'll pick up the pace a little bit. The next piece, oh no, there we go. We've talked about Bringing back the budget overview. So we talked early in 2017 or late 2017 about kind of doing the mid-year review, and we said then, hey, we'll come back in early 2018 and take a real look at how we closed 2017. So again, I tried to keep this at a high level, not get too far into the detail unless you guys want that further discussion. And then the other direction I would like from you guys is if you'd like me to bring this to the full council, this kind of presentation or more detail. So going through this quickly, we're going to just real quickly talk about the major operational funds, our general fund, street fund, and our water sewer fund. We're not getting into the capital side today.
Not
And then,
storm.
Storm is not a major operational fund.
It is for Mark, but not,
Yeah, not in the context of finance. Budget amendments, and then we'll talk about budget amendments. So when we evaluated where we are at, again, recall, I think it's important to remind folks that we are in a biennial budget. Okay, that's a 24-month period, not a 12-month period. So we're looking at how did we perform for the first 12 months of our 24-month period. So when we looked at through the end of 2017, and we looked at our revenues, we have collected 51% of our overall biennial budget. And when we looked at our expenses, we spent approximately 49% of our overall biennial budget. To me, that means we're on track. We're at 50%, we're midway through our budget period, 51% of our revenues have been collected, and 49% of our expenses have been realized. So that is an on-track budget for your general fund. When we look at department, all we're looking to see is there any anomalies, anything concerning within a department's expense budget? Again, you can see here all departments are ahead of their expense budget, and they have all that capacity, that additional capacity in 2018 then. So that's good from a biennial perspective. Again,
This means
recall,
Mark needs to pedal faster. He's only spent 40.
Well, I was gonna say, that's simply because we don't have enough staff to get this done.
Is the non-department the mayor's?
No, that's
I asked that question.
yeah, those are just transfers and they're one time, and so it pops up real flippy, but
Right, those are like paying Squirf, paying AWC, they all get paid right up front. So they're right, they're like all
no,
these.
but that's
No?
okay.
Oh, I thought that's what
No.
they were.
No, they're just transfers to other funds. So they're really I should pull them off. It's just more.
You should just
confusing.
pull it off. It just
No.
doesn't. It's not relevant.
But what is relevant, if you look at Public Works, since he spoke up, 42% of his 2017 budget was spent, and that means, again, what we did is we looked at the biennial budget, 24-month period, whatever you didn't spend in the first 12 months is now available capacity for your next 12 months. So you see his next 12 months, he has 58% of available capacity.
What's the dollar amount for the non-department?
I think it's 140,000. I can bring it back to you.
I'm up there. I'm up there in
Yeah.
administration. I'm the top line. I'm 46%.
46%. So that's all good news by
Spending a lot of
department.
money.
Again, if someone was at 60, 80%, you'd say, okay, what's going on in the department? Why are their expenses kind of higher in the first 12 months of the period? Switching to the street fund, again, same story. Revenues came in 51% in the first 12 months. And I kind of want to change how I talk about the second 12 months, because to me now, revenue is a target. So it means that I have a lower revenue target in my second 12 months, which is a good thing. I want a lower target for revenue. I don't have to increase my revenue target. So that means that my variability, my risk has decreased quite a bit because of the first 12 months. Again, revenue came in 51% of our overall budget, expenses 42% of our overall budget, which means the capacity is still there. It's just available for 2018, depending on how the projects start to roll out.
That's a good problem to have.
Water sewer fund. Now, I put this up just to be factual. You say 28% of our revenue came in the first 12 months. Oh no, is that a problem? But you'll see my footnote up there that this is including capital. This is our 401 fund, which includes operations and capital, so it kind of skews the numbers in this graph a little bit. So I wanted to back the capital out and look at just operationally how did the water sewer fund perform. We collected 50% of our biennial budget, which is good. We're on track. And we expensed 40% of our biennial budget. So again, on track budget for all our operational funds, which is a good thing to report. When we talk about future amendments coming forward, probably in April, May, some of these are going to be housekeeping items, things we've identified, originally in the biennial budget did not have the stormwater fund bond proceeds identified in the budget and capital spending on the stormwater fund. So there's some cleanup items, or I call them housekeeping. There's going to be some future amendments that we're identifying accounts that aren't useful to us and are causing more work. So we're going to close this out. We have a particular line item called City Hall Reserve of $9,500 for that. It's just not worth $9,500 to keep rolling that forward every year. And in fact, we're going to spend those funds on City Hall as we get some new blinds. We've identified a project and we're going to spend that and use those funds. And then we'll close that out as a reserve because it's not useful for us to keep it forward. And we're going to identify others like that. The last piece of biennial budget amendments that are going to come forward are, we're now talking about capital projects, any changes that are going to have a budgetary impact. McCormick Park is for example. We budgeted $1 million. We expect it to come in higher. We're out to bid. We're going to hear on the 30th, I believe it's coming back in.
And the bids before were 1.4, 1.5, 1.6.
There was between 1.4 and 1.5.
Yeah,
Correct.
So,
And today is the pathways, isn't it? We opened the pathway today.
no, Monday,
Monday.
26.
Okay, Monday.
So we're going to review the capital projects kind of as they're originally estimated and then what the results are, and we'll come back with the budgetary impact and solutions for funding those projects. And those will be the more major future amendments. The others are just kind of touch up housekeeping things. And the other one is Marina Pump Station. Now, once we get that moving forward in June, July.
How about well 9?
Well 9, I just put 2 examples. I wasn't trying to go through the list. But just so you understand what
You don't have
expect.
enough to do?
No, I'm just saying well 9 is one that the bids came in higher on the
Yep.
first.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, there'll be others, but there's just a couple examples. And that's all I really had for kind of review.
I personally, I think this is excellent. I think the full council should see this as well as the community.
Absolutely.
I would only suggest if there's a way to break out, separate sewer and waters, because we talk about their rates differently all the time in the community.
Okay.
And I would also just throw up stormwater, even though, just so that,
Okay.
talk about transparency.
And that one line that's the anomaly,
Yeah,
that's
that
the
one.
Yeah, I'll take
administrative
that
or
out.
whatever that is, take that out. What's, why have we spent 94%, It's not,
I
it's
think
just
this
a
is
transfers.
Okay.
It's very easy to
Very
read.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
So
It's
a work
aggressive,
study
but-
or just informational at the end of a council meeting, this will last 7 to 10 minutes at the
I
most.
put it on as a presentation at the council meeting.
Presentation at a council meeting, okay?
And
like
I
it.
might, under the capital issue, and you said you just put a couple in there.
Yes.
If we know that we're going to have something that's going to impact us, say, at a threshold of $100,000, you may list it.
Okay.
Because I don't know what the well 9 difference was.
Well, we're
But
hoping
if there's just a
Well, we
a
should know
threshold.
within a week or maybe 10 days from now.
30th.
So maybe perhaps before this comes back to
That-
full council, we'll have some,
Right.
Yeah.
We'll know on the 30th the real numbers.
yeah.
Because I wouldn't want someone, well, gee, you didn't tell us about that. If
Okay.
we knew, if it's
Okay. I
I
above
mean, this
us.
is a great piece for the public, that's why.
Oh, it's
as opposed to
wonderful.
the
Yeah.
community or
No,
council.
I agree.
If they're, I don't know if this is even feasible with the timing of everything, but
Nick
if you
and
could
I,
put Fremont in that kind of, we're on target
Okay.
with
Capital
that
section.
project.
Okay.
This is how much left we have to spend. Somehow you
Right.
can indicate that we're on time or,
Tremont update would be good, I think, for the public.
I think those are the big
Where are
things
we
for the
where are we
public.
at the halfway point on Tremont? We're coming up on halfway next couple months.
Yeah, probably next 3 months.
Yeah.
getting close.
Okay.
Nick and I are both pressed for time. We'd like to jump to 9 and 8. So
Okay.
he's got a meeting to get to court. So we'll start with 9 if we could, and that's, so the long and the short of that is that, remember, we appealed the county.
Right.
We're asking them to do certain things. We have TSI on contract to do our transportation reviews. That is typically, though, a pass-through. So a developer comes in with a project, TSI is gonna charge $5,000 to do that review, we charge that developer. We would like to have a third party, TSI, review the county's work. We can't charge the county for it, though. We would like to, the city, we feel it's important that our transportation consultant review that body of work. as
What
the
do you
county.
think the cost would be?
So they've given us a scope, but it's a not to exceed figure with just hours. They came in at 24,000, but I think we can cut it in half. But it's purely based on the number of meetings they come to and how many times they have to drive over and how much they actually review. So I wouldn't expect it to hit that if we approved it, the task order at 24, but I'd propose just cutting it all the numbers in half and saying that we think we should be able to do it within this, and let's aim for even half of that. And mostly it's peer review for, they're gonna have, the first part of the entire analysis is technical modeling and review, stuff that none of our staff has the ability to look at, and so we want them to make sure that the basis for the study that the county is performing is gonna, address our concerns as much as possible.
Does this have to do with that meeting notice that I got with David Ford, that TIS?
Maybe, I didn't get a notice like that, so.
I was meeting with you.
We just want to avoid the county pulling the wool over our eyes, because we
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah, I thought
the
we
were-
technical ability in-house to review what it is, the body of work that they're gonna do, whether it solves our concerns or not. And so if you think we can get it done for 10 or 12?
I mean, the scope that he sent had 9 meetings in it, and I don't think he needs to come over 9 times. I think he needs to come over 2 or 3 times. And then it's mostly gonna be emailing him documents and asking for feedback and having him provide that to the county. So.
Yeah, well, you can just do a time materials not to exceed at 12,000, whatever, and then if things change, then obviously then you fall under the
Yeah.
change order authority.
Well, and it's a task order under an existing contract that has a not to exceed. So it's getting another task order, but we would just bring that task order back to council. So I think what I'd propose doing is cutting the current bid, which was 24,000 and change. I think it was 24,800 maybe, and cut that in half, and then use that as a starting point.
I'm fine with it.
Oh, I am too. I think it's necessary.
I think it'll be money well spent.
Yeah, I think it's necessary.
Okay, I'm gonna run up.
Just didn't want to start spending that money without talking to you guys about it, because it's not in the budget. So that could trigger a budget amendment at some point if we exceed the contract amount, because there is no offsetting revenue to pay for it, so.
Take it out of the mayor's budget.
He has savings.
I have savings. This wasn't in your packet. Pass this out real quick. This is, oops, you've got John's bottom page. I'll make it work. No, you didn't get one. You should have, Mark. So, Mark and I had some concerns about Thomas and making him, elevating his position, making sure that we can keep Thomas in the fold, at least in the, he may grow beyond, we may not be able to meet his professional aspirations forever, and that's okay, but in the next few years, I think it's critical to the city, and Mark definitely feels that way, that we keep the team that we have together, in particular Thomas with all of his water sewer projects that we're working on in the Foster Fix. So we looked at Thomas's job description and we looked at his salary range, and the job that we really latched onto was a similar job at Bremerton. They have 3 people in their water, sewer, and I think it's storm. They're 3 times our size, and so we use this salary range. The bottom end of it is Bremerton's starting salary. Their salary goes higher than this, but our salary range has 2.5% steps in it. So we used our structure, their starting wage, and then from a management standpoint, Thomas is the public works supervisor and currently the sewer and water manager. Now we're going to make him the utilities and facilities manager. He was already managing the public works guys that were doing our facilities stuff. So we're just adding that into his job description and then adding the stormwater piece to it. So he manages all utilities. So Zach now will report to Thomas as really the only management structure change here. I think this puts Thomas on par with his peer group. I've got a commitment from Thomas that we won't hear about this, his job duties or salary at least for 3 years. And, you know, by then we should have most of these major projects done. And if the city continues to grow, we can reevaluate things, or if we can't, then he can pursue other opportunities at, you know, at that time. But I think it's very important in the short run that we keep, we've got a very good group of people, and it's important to keep the team together here so that we don't have things
Poaching.
falling. Yeah, poaching, I guess, is the.
And I
so-
have been working succession plan wise with Thomas and Michael and Cindy to some degree, you know, kind of the core. Because my horizon is another 10 years, hopefully. And so I am, you know, we are actively looking at succession planning and, you know, what the organization looks like in 10 years.
So Thomas is almost a year and a half into his current position, or he's 15 months anyway into his current position. The one anomaly here that I would really, that I'm asking for is that he's currently making $86,000 a year. I would like him to bring him in at the 1 year step, which would be $96,000. One of the potential places that was looking to poach had a starting salary of $98,000 a year. So I'm not
They also
getting
just
him
raised that.
and they just raised that. So I didn't feel we needed to be there, but I wanted to be comparable, you know, or not too far off of it. And Thomas felt that was fair.
I can't overemphasize the importance of the nucleus we have right now.
I have a problem with it.
Yeah, I have no problem with it either, but I would just, my only comment is we never want to be hostage to an employee. And so we know we need his expertise, we know we need to keep the team together right now, but we need to also think about, you know, who will follow Thomas, so.
And it's probably not in-house. There's just nobody. We don't have that bench, and we don't have that ability. It's just, he came from Public Works
Right.
with some skills and has grown
Right.
That's the way I
phenomenally.
look at it. If Thomas were to leave and we were to go out to market on this, we're gonna be paying that anyway.
Exactly.
If
So
not
I
more.
don't view that we're doing this for a
Yeah.
particular individual. It's just setting the need, and it's the comp set cost of it.
3 to 5 years from now, and we continue to grow, and we can't meet his professional needs, I'm most likely asking you guys to split this into 2 people. It's too much. It is, but
In 5 years, it definitely will be.
you know, the facilities and the parks probably needs to get carved off. You're going to see in my presentation at the retreat the need for a facilities and parks manager. I'm still going to say there is a need. I'm not going to advocate for money for that in this next biennial budget. I'm going to back off of that. But you guys asked me what are the needs, right? But
Well, something's gonna have to change. We
Yeah.
improved the downtown park, we had the pocket park,
Right.
we had McCormick Park. and
Yeah.
Something has to change in the
Yeah.
future.
In the meantime, he's going to manage. Still, we're adding those responsibilities. We might have to add some temp help, some contract help, and somebody's going to manage that. And for now, that's going to be
Yeah,
Thomas.
ultimately, Tony at the shop, it's going to be incumbent on him working with Thomas with these additional, to pick up this parks and facilities until we hit the point where we can have somebody that's truly going to take over the day-to-day of City Hall and the library and the active club and, you know, all the facilities. Because it's just, you know, I've mentioned this to Rob, they truly are they're just afterthoughts for us. We have too many larger things that are just immediate. We're reactionary right now. And
Crisis
the
management.
HVAC system, unless something goes wrong with it, it's just keep it going. We don't have time to
This
to
is
do
this
what
is
we
the
want.
temperature, and then the afternoon, this room's a sweat box. I mean, it should, you know.
And that's mainly windows.
It's just, it is what it is, and we've got an energy audit that told us some of the things we need to fix. We just don't have the time. It's
Yeah.
just, it's not broken.
Yeah, my 12 hours a day go
Okay,
really quickly.
we're
Yep.
okay. So-
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll bring it for the full council, probably the first meeting in April.
Okay.
Let's move back up.
Software.
So we'll back up. I just want to bring this software contract update we have on the agenda for Tuesday.
Oh.
So we've been working with our vendor So we have some estimates now. I just want to make you aware of it so you're not surprised when I bring the contract forward and the cost. Total estimated cost is currently $145,000. If we add the asset management module into this contract, it'll be roughly about $170,000. We're going to have a second demo on the asset management today, this afternoon, with Public Works staff. After that demo, they're going to give me the yay, go ahead, Noah, add it to the contract. This is the right product for us. And so you could expect to see $170,000 for financial software and asset management coming to council on Tuesday night.
Or we may end up with a compatible asset management.
And if that's the case, I'm dropping asset management. I'm still coming Tuesday night with my financial software
Yes.
because that's an immediate issue. I'm not going to hold up the train, but I'd like to get them on board if we
I
can.
just know I've heard concerns, so.
Okay, so we'll find out this afternoon.
Yeah.
By the time. I don't care myself. I'm not an asset management software person, but I do see some efficiency by having two systems talk together. We're going to try and manage this within our current capital budget authority. Okay, so at this point, I'm not come forward with any amendments. We have, again, identified in the capital budget.
What's the transition time? Because you're
About-
going to move from one system to another, so.
Yeah. So there's three stages to this really. There's a legacy piece where they come in and capture all our current data, current information, so we have that available. And then when they start to build and implement the new product, and then the third phase is kind of the rollout, kind of going live. And when we go live, we're going to shadow that. We're using our current system with our new system, kind of make sure that everything's working the way anything it should.
Right.
When we actually, when I talk about staff, the joke is, it's funny because the new software would probably work in our actual one's going to probably be the one that breaks down and fails us. So we could probably have worked in the new one, but the old one's going to fail us. But that's just how they feel about it. So staff is really excited about it. I'm excited about it. We're going to continue to try and manage within our authority. Depending on the timeline of the rollout, because again, it takes about 9 months to a year for full conversion. It could cross over into 2019, which is be a new budget cycle. So we're going to manage within what we got for 2018. And if it rolls into 2019, again, we'll be talking about this, hey, for 2019, we're going to continue this project, finish it off in 2019. But again, we're using the authority we have right now. We have $67,000 for cloud conversion in the current capital budget, so we're using that to get us started for 2018. There will be some additional savings on the asset management side if they come with us and what was budgeted and what this product is going to ultimately cost. And there was a couple other items that we identified, hey, we don't necessarily need to do this one now if we can do this. So we're trying to manage within our budget authority, is what I'm trying to communicate.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Mark, your last
Okay.
one.
So basically, we have the scope and the budget for the Bethel SR 160 corridor. As we were, it was a robust conceptual scope.
Right.
As we started to move through the process, for me, things that we were dealing with the Tremont, kind of some of the upfront issues, I'd asked the consultant to expand their scope. It mainly was providing some additional, like, cross-sectioning going outside of the right-of-way, because we learned on Tremont the hard way about driveway reconnection, the limits of cuts fills, what you're going to buy as a right-of-way versus what you're going to buy as an easement, and then some storm drainage, and then that's all wraps into what's known as the APE, and that's kind of the area potential effect. If we ever federalize any of that, the APE is really critical to have a really good sense of where that is now, because on Tremont, it was the right-of-way and the easements, and we got into this whole thing with the houses and the reconnections, and in hindsight, the APE should have included the homes. That would have been much easier. So it's just lessons learned with Tremont, because ultimately this is the foundation for moving forward. So I've asked for quite a bit of additional scope to have a more robust deliverable. And that amount is about 45,000. I think it's well worth the investment, so that what we get is a much better conceptual, because we're asking for more information that's really going to serve us well.
And that's both Bethel and
160,
Sedgwick.
yeah. Yeah, it's more survey work, it's a little bit more traffic modeling, but it's mainly, and then engineering. It's really going beyond this imaginary line and saying, okay, you've got a slope here, you got a fill here, there's a wetland, it'll look at critical areas, and then drainage is gonna look beyond, where we think we really need to put a regional facility and get information on how we get there. So, it's
So I
taking
don't
site-
have a problem with it, but we just gave Nick 12,000 to work with
This is
the
within his
city.
street budget.
Okay.
Exceeds the contract amount by an amount that we need you guys to approve.
Okay.
So we can manage it
No,
within the
look at
budget
it.
If we have the
Yeah.
money for it, I
Yeah.
don't have a problem.
No, and I think what tees us up really nice is going through that budget presentation, you can see that for 2017, we were all kind of under our budget authority.
Right.
So when Mark asked, the first thing I did is, I don't want to look at expanding your capacity. Do you have, within your current budget, can we manage around this? I found that we probably could, and as we get later in 2018, that's when we'll really come say, hey, now we're having some issues. But right now, it looks like we can manage within our capacity.
And we could get tight, and we might have to do a small budget amendment at the end of the year, but as of right now, we've got the authority. We don't have the authority from a contract management standpoint, so that's why we're here.
It's important that when we get done with this Sedgwick one, Bethel, that we have the deliverable services and that we're not going, well,
Oh, we should have done that, and now we're gonna go,
Product.
instead of,
Yeah.
we've got these guys under contract, we're gonna spend 45 grand. We could easily spend 100 grand later to get the same thing, because we have to start all over again,
No,
and our
it was
time.
it was a light bulb moment as we were closing out a certain phase of the project. I was going, I just, I've got some fresh wounds from Tremont.
Right.
We should learn from this.
Yeah, good idea. Sounds good.
Yeah. Fly to the meeting.
Do we
and-
want to schedule the next meeting?
We should.
Yeah, we definitely should, since we'll have April and then we'll be into May and we'll have a retreat coming up. So if there's anything you guys want to be seeing or bringing forth for the retreat.
Uh, 20th?
That's the only date I can't make.
is that April?
April, yeah.
Well, we can do Friday the 13th or Friday the 27th.
I'm out of town the 27th, but you don't have to have me here.
Actually, I can't do it on the 27th either, so.
13th?
Do we want to do something other than a Friday?
Doesn't make any difference to me, or push it off to the 4th of May, but
I come back the 7th. Is the
When's the retreat? It's on May
18th.
May 18th.
18th, so you want to be before May 18th.
yeah.
So you could jump into May.
The 11th? Friday the 11th?
That just basically gives 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Part of the problem with early in the month is we don't
Have
have
the-
that much sales
Yeah.
tax, so.
But I don't know, the 20th, we'd have it for,
April?
Yeah.
Is there a possibility we can arrange Sean and John's schedule so that we can meet before a council meeting? Like, whatever that last meeting in April is.
24th.
this is getting him out of Bremerton, because he's in
Yeah.
a car.
I could make it work. It's,
24th at
24th and
5.
15th.
5:15?
What's very?
It's fine, I'll make it work.
Say 5, because it's about an hour. Gives you a chance to
do it 5.
It's fine. 24th and
5 o'clock
5.
in the
I'm here.
morning.
Yeah, we can do that.
hear
Done, done, and done.
this room.
Yeah, I'll send out a meeting invite. 24th at 5. And then regarding the charging stations resolution, since we won't meet to the 24th, would you like me just to email you guys a proposed resolution ordinance and we can work that way? And you guys can give me comments, feedback, and that way we can bring the resolution ordinance in April. That way we can get the charging stations done and be done with it.
I don't know that you're gonna care about the weeds of the ordinance, I just bring it forward.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and it would be nice to have those before the summer months.
Yeah, it'd just be nice to be done talking about it.
Mike's ready to roll, we just have to go buy them.
I would check on the state contract.
I did make a note to look at it and see
Yeah, I
what
would
they
check
have.
those out.
Okay.
Those things are always
we're moving.
Yep, all right, meeting adjourned, Chairman?
Yep, meeting adjourned.